is an addictive drug which produces in its users insanity, criminality, and death.
Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind.
Oh yeah, some classic reefer madness coming up for you. Gateway Gill, our drug czar, Buffalo's Buffalo. You may remember he went out to Seattle to visit with the editorial board of the Seattle Times after they had called for marijuana legalization. But Gill, in addition to being a former police chief in Seattle, also spent time in Buffalo, New York. And so he went this week to the Buffalo newspaper and spoke to them. We have video from that was so graciously put together by Cannabob. Talking drugs with the nation's drug czar, R. Gil Kurlikowski chats with the Buffalo News March 28th. Question: are we winning the war on drugs or losing it?
I ended the war on drugs 2 years ago, Dan. You should have read the Wall Street Journal. I mean, Gary Fields, I got to send you the article. But I just think that's the wrong metaphor and the wrong way to work in it. In minority communities, war on drugs, people think of it as a war on them.
I wonder what might have led to that perception, Gil. Could it be the arresting of minority individuals in these neighborhoods for drugs? The war on drugs was over 2 years ago, John. Did you realize? 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah, no more war on drugs. Those 1.7 million people that have been arrested for cannabis since those 2 years?
Yeah.
Illusion.
Oh.
All fake. The war on drugs is over.
Really?
All right, let's go back to Gateway Gill.
You can say, gee, it's a war on a product, it's a war. I don't think it does it. It also kind of tells you that this is a win-lose situation and what's the end game and on and on.
So basically what he's saying here is calling it the war on drugs implies that at the end there will be a victor and there will be a surrender and there will no longer be a war. What he's telling you here is that we can't call it war on drugs because we don't intend it to ever end.
And I think if we look at it as a public health problem and a public safety problem, will have much greater effect. I mean, we recognize that addiction is a disease and addiction can be treated.
Yeah, here's the problem though, Gateway Gill, is that the people who really seriously have addictions to methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, they can't get in the beds for the treatment because they're filled up with nonviolent marijuana consumers whose only tie to addiction is they got caught by the cops and sentenced by a drug court to go to a rehab. If you're really serious about treatment over incarceration, why does the budget of the Obama administration very closely match the same ratios as the Bush administration, the Clinton administration before that, and so forth? Administrations going back throughout the drug war with a 2-to-1 funding ratio of incarceration and interdiction to treatment and rehabilitation. You cannot run away from those numbers, Gil. The fact remains the Obama administration likes to talk about rehab and all, but when the money is put down, they like to continue what we've been doing, and that's arresting people for drugs.
You know, if we all go out, you know, one evening, 5 of us, one could be a little bit more affected by something that they drink, just a little bit more, because of their makeup than maybe the other 4 people. So we do have to recognize all the physical. The other part is bringing addiction and drug treatment as part of primary health care.
So I'm not even sure what that means about the one person could get drunker than the other 4 people wouldn't get drunk. Are you trying to tell us, Gil, that people that have addiction problems are a minority, even when we're talking about alcohol, that most people, like when we're talking about alcohol, most people can use this substance responsibly, and unless they're causing a problem to someone else, we don't need to consider them an addict? Is that the point you were trying to make, is that most of the people using drugs are not abusing drugs? Because I'm not exactly sure why you threw that in there. Next question: is the criminalization of marijuana worth the resources needed to enforce it?
We did a lot because California's Proposition 19, which was to legalize marijuana, and actually people in California did most of it, but we delivered a lot of information and support on all of the things that Proposition 19 said it would accomplish.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Proposition 19 wasn't a federal measure, was it? It had nothing to do with the federal government, right? It was a state political initiative that you inserted the federal government into in order to propagandize against citizens who had put together an initiative to ask fellow citizens to vote on marijuana's legalization. Do we have it all straight here? Now, I understand there's nothing illegal about what you've done. In fact, the mandate of the Drug Czar's office is to oppose the legalization of any substance in Schedule 1, regardless of what use it may be used for, medical, spiritual, recreational, doesn't matter. In fact, it is your job to go out there to California and oppose Prop 19. I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear here that we're using federal taxpayer funds to interfere with democracy in the states.
That it would reduce criminal justice costs, and the research shows it really wouldn't. If you think about alcohol as perfectly legal substance that's out there, and yet there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of alcohol-related arrests every year. DWI, untaxed alcohol, underage possession, on and on and on. So there's no reason to believe that marijuana isn't going to result in also criminal justice arrests.
Well, except for that whole part about alcohol being toxic and addictive. Yeah, other than that part, right? Other than the part about alcohol being proven to lead to violence and proven to lead to problems on the roads and traffic fatalities and abuse of other human beings and crime, other than that difference, really, there's no difference. I mean, we could expect, look here, this is the bait and switch that they always want to pull on you with the Drug Czar's office. And by the way, we'll be running this to the end of our show here on the podcast, but when we come back in hour 2, we'll continue with more Gateway Gill. So for those of you listening live, just stay tuned. We'll continue all of this. But here's the problem. They always want to bring up alcohol and tobacco, and they say, we bring in X number of tax dollars from taxing alcohol and tobacco, but we have Y dollars in costs, which is greater than the X we bring in taxes, right? So it actually costs us more to have legal tobacco and alcohol. I mean, we do anyway. Nobody's talking about criminalizing those, are they, Gil? But we bring in less in the taxes than we actually spend in all the lung cancer deaths and drunk driving and enforcement of underage drinking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that is absolutely true. Because, again, those drugs are toxic and addictive. Cannabis use, it's not as if we legalize it and then suddenly there will be 25 million adults in America that are using it at least once a year. That's happening now, Gil. People are smoking pot right now. So if there is a cost, and I'm not saying there is, but if there is a cost associated to the society from the smoking of pot, it's happening now. We are paying it now. Okay, we're paying that cost right now, and we're taking in, let me see, zero. Yes, we're taking in zero in exchange, right? We don't even get as good of a deal as we get with alcohol and tobacco, where we take in some tax money to offset the cost of the people smoking and drinking. We're taking in zero in tax money for cannabis, and having whatever cost you assume there is from cannabis. And again, I'm saying there's not going to be a cost associated with cannabis anywhere near what we find from alcohol and tobacco, because again, cannabis is not toxic and addictive like alcohol and tobacco. What a silly thing. And furthermore, he concludes that with something about the we have to have all these enforcement. We still have to arrest people for drunk driving. We still have to arrest. So is your argument here the fact that if we legalized marijuana and still had to enforce laws against kids smoking pot or people driving stoned, that's too much of a hassle? We might as well just keep arresting everyone? Really? That's so many of the Drug Czar's arguments, when you listen to them, if you just work them backwards from what their stated goal is to what they just said, you work the logic backwards, you see how silly it is. The notion that the only way we can send the right message to the children is to continue to lock up cancer patients. The only way that we can prevent mayhem on the roads from stoned drivers is to lock up adults in their home who are smoking pot. The crazy logic, if you work it backwards, you realize exactly how crazy it is. Let's end here with a little more from Gateway Gill.
The second thing they said is that it would help in taxes. It would increase taxes. But why would anybody pay taxes on something that they can grow in their backyard or buy on the black market?
Well, goodness, why would I pay the beer taxes on a bottle of Budweiser when I can just go down? In fact, there's a place right down here off 83rd or so where I can go and get me home brewing supplies and brew my own beer. Well, you know why, Gil? Growing marijuana is a pain in the ass. It is. It's hard. It's difficult. It's not hard, but it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of diligence. John will tell you, man, it's not something you just jump right into. Oh,
it's work.
I'll throw a seed in there and then I'll have some weed 9 weeks later. No, it don't work like that, Gil. It's a pain in the ass. And plenty of us who have black thumbs wouldn't mind at all paying a tax to get some good quality marijuana at a decent price. And as far as there being a black market, the only way that black market could possibly exist is if the people, if you're overtaxing and overpricing the legal marijuana. Keep the prices reasonable, and plenty of us would much rather be legal than be buying off of an unregulated market. We'll get some more from Gateway Gil. We're going to continue this in hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. Also going to record this on the video so you can go to our site and catch the whole thing if you missed it on podcast. For Ganja Johnny Cannabis Carry, I'm Radical Russ. Take care of each other, Tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
Okay, this is Toker Talk Radio, but Randy, that is his Miami Vice outfit.
I borrowed this from Philip Michael Thomas. You like?
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is because I'm old school 80s, yo.
I like that.
Thank you very much.
You gotta have a big pair of plums to rock some pink.
That's right. You got it. The shiny pink at that.
Yeah.
The pink and the teal.
Yeah. I'd do it.
Of course you would, and you do it well.
Yeah.
You know, welcome, folks. Toker Talk Radio, 2 o'clock here, Pacific Daylight Time, hanging out.
People don't realize I'm so cool because I have confidence.
That's it.
That's all it is, folks.
It's amazing how much of reality is actually dictated by your perception of it.
Exactly.
It's really amazing.
Exactly.
And there's a quantum basis for this. When you start talking about when they get quantum physics and they start talking about bosons and quarks and all these little tiny things that they're not really matter. They're kind of waves, but they're not. They're particles. And if you look at them, looking at them makes something happen to them that means they aren't what they were when you looked at them. Whoa, man.
Have you seen that documentary, How Far Down the Rabbit Hole? It was filmed actually here in Portland, a lot of it, but it's all about quantum physics.
Yeah.
And the guy Michio Kaku's on there.
Oh, Michio Kaku's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that
I wish
guy.
Carrie was on the line. She loves Michio Kaku.
Yeah, so that's an awesome documentary.
He's a genius.
Yeah.
I've read some of his stuff.
And we joke about this. And there's the famous Animal House clip we play with he's one atom in my thumbnail, a whole universe. You know that old joke. But really, there is something about smoking weed that opens your mind to the limitless complexity of the universe. That makes you kind of get in tune with. Wow, we are really all connected. There's a great line from Bill Hicks. Do you remember that Bill Hicks line where he talks about the guy who discovers that that there is no matter, we all just energy vibrating at different waveforms.
Right.
And we are just the universe that has found a way to perceive itself through its different manifestations, and we are all one in love and truth and beauty.
That was fun.
All right, let's have a beer.
Yeah.
If you folks out there, younger folks out there, if you don't know Bill Hicks, Hicks, homework assignment.
Yeah, seriously.
YouTube,
and it's
Hicks.
Actually it's all on Netflix Instant Play if you guys have that too.
Do the Netflix thing. You kids with your Xboxes and your ColecoVisions and stuff. There's no ColecoVision anymore, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I wish.
I have vision.
Yeah.
He does.
Decent vision.
That's why he's here.
Decent vision, that's right. All right, so let me continue with Gateway Gil here, because we're still recording for the archives, for the video archives. So,
Okay.
So we'll go on a little more here with Gateway Gil while we compress the show. Here's some more of Gateway Gil. The piece I'm entitled Gateway Gil Buffalo's Buffalo, and that's an inside joke. There's another, I forget the term for it, damn it, but out on Wikipedia of these grammatical lexicon, I can't remember what the term was, but it's sentences that are grammatically correct, but they sound and read very strangely. Like, James, while John had a better effect on the teacher.
That's amazing.
That's a grammatically correct sentence, but you know, all the hads make you freak out. Well, there's one in there that's buffalo, 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 buffalo. That's grammatically correct using the name of the word buffalo, the verb to buffalo people, the noun of buffalo, the creatures.
Right.
Anyway, it's my
What?
joke on Gateway Gill. I'm a
Gotcha.
nerd. What can I say?
Gotcha.
Word nerd.
That's awesome. Well, I was like trying to do an update on Facebook earlier, and I was gonna do 4-4, something like that, you know.
Yeah.
But I was like, I
You
just
can't do it.
no. I was like, no, screw
Yeah.
it. I'll figure out something else out. So.
Yeah.
All right, more Gateway Gill. Here we go.
The other part is that even with the amount of tax dollars collected for alcohol and nicotine, the amount of tax dollars don't begin to
Yeah, there it
equate
is.
with the social and healthcare costs of both alcohol and nicotine. In fact, for alcohol,
So I love it when he says that. It's like, okay, so the argument then is these two substances are the worst, so let's keep this third substance that's not like them at all illegal. Here's the terrible thing about alcohol and tobacco. That's why pot needs to be illegal. Okay.
it's about 1 to 8 for every $1 in alcohol taxes. We spend about $8 in healthcare and related costs, criminal justice costs. And then they said it would reduce violence in Mexico because it's there wouldn't be marijuana wouldn't be used by the cartels. But the cartels are so, and I've had 4 trips to Mexico. The cartels are so engaged in arson and extortion and kidnapping and everything else that this is just like one sliver.
Okay, so since they're engaged in all these other violent activities, let's let them continue to run the marijuana market. I'm telling you, if you just take drug war slogans like that and you turn them backwards, it sounds incredibly silly, and it just lets everyone know how ridiculous that is. This was when the whole Prop 19 thing happened, and this Rand Corporation study came out because the Prop 19 proponents were seizing on, quotes from federal officials. Hillary Rodham Clinton, Secretary Clinton comes to mind. The Attorney General of Arizona mentioned it one time. I believe Senator McCain echoed this sentiment at one time. I'd have to look up all the quotes, but basically, from the federal government, from the DEA's own lips, they were echoing that 60% of the income from the Mexican cartels is relevant to marijuana trade. And then the Rand Corporation comes out and says, well, this 60% figure is way overblown. It's really more like, 15 or 20%. Oh! Well, if it's just 20% of their income, by gosh, let them have it. What? Does it, like there's a bar they have to clear before, okay, well, that, by God, that's too much. Let's take it away from them. And furthermore, the Rand report went on to say, well, even if California legalized with Prop 19, the Mexican market wouldn't, while it would affect the Mexican market there, that's really only 2% of what they would do overall in the rest of the United States. Largely true. California's got a glut of marijuana. They got plenty of marijuana growers. The Mexican brickweed is going out to Missouri.
Right.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, Russ knows.
But the Mexican brickweed's out in Missouri, out in Oklahoma, all those places. So yes, they are absolutely right. Legalizing in California would not negatively affect the bottom line of the cartels to a great degree. But is it affecting their bottom line to any degree a good thing? It's like, we could take away 2% of their income. No, by God, let them have it. 2%, that's not worth going after. I don't understand that reasoning. I don't understand it at all. All right, let's go, because I have facts, reason, and logic. All right, let's go on to more Gateway. More Gil. What is the most surprising thing you've seen since taking on your drug czar role?
I think I would have learned as a police chief a lot more about treatment years. I couldn't name 5 people involved in drug treatment programs or running them. I mean, I knew a little bit about them. If I knew how effective they could be and what good advocates police officials can be for drug treatment, I would have figured out how to marry some resources and time and focus with some of them.
Yeah, and this goes back to the whole drug court notion, which we've just seen 2 reports come out, 3 actually, one from Drug Policy Alliance, one from Justice Policy Institute, and I forget the third group that has just released reports on drug courts, finding them to be ineffective because when you're putting people in rehab through the threat of jail or rehab, they guess what? They go to rehab, and they do or say whatever they got to do and say in rehab to not go to jail. They don't necessarily really get rehab. Now, don't get me wrong, rehab is a wonderful thing. Saved my father's life. I wouldn't be here, right? Rehab is a beautiful thing, and it can be very effective for people who've hit their bottom and want to get help and want to go to rehab. Filling up these rehabs with nonviolent marijuana offenders, when we find that 57% of all rehab admissions for marijuana are people sent there by the criminal justice system, by a drug court that's given them the jail or rehab choice. We find 37% of those who go to rehab for marijuana haven't even used marijuana in the past month. And another 16% have only used 1 to 3 times in the past month. You know, because the new marijuana is so addictive. So we send a majority of people there, we force them to go there, and the majority of people that go there really aren't using that much. And then when they get out and you keep them on probation and you keep testing their pee and they don't reoffend, you say, aha, rehab works. We took all these people who weren't addicted, forced them into rehab, and they didn't reoffend. Jesus. You know, if I could float a $15 billion budget with lines like that, I'd have stayed in the corporate world. If I could have gotten away with that with my bosses on my reports, on my TPS reports, we're going to need those TPS reports, okay? Okay, going to need that pretty soon. Keep away from my red stapler. All right, here's some more.
You know, they can be a little standoffish because they think, well, the police, are they looking for informants? Are they looking to, you know, why are they involved? And the police can say, well, you know, we got enough on our plate. Why do we need to worry about this? But treatment is about half the cost of incarceration. Treatment can be effective. And if a
treatment means we can keep our eyes on you, we can keep tabs on you, we can keep doing drug tests and keep you on probation, but we don't have to put you up in a building and feed you and clothe you and house you and pay you for your medical care. Yeah, it's half the cost of incarceration. Of course it is.
If a police chief or a sheriff or a prosecutor is carrying that message, and right now, I mean, every governor in the state, from here to Ohio to Texas, on, is looking at how to cut their criminal justice costs.
How about not arresting people for pot?
I bet that would be cheap.
Yeah, I bet that real cheap right there. Because how much is a pen, right? Pen costs you 19 cents, 20 cents for a pen, right?
Like
and the paper that you have to write that bill on, well, I imagine you got to make a lot of copies. Could be 20, 30 bucks worth of copies for that bill that everybody has to see. But then, you know, once they pass that bill and you sign it, and you sign that bill, and then pot's legal, no more cost. You don't have to arrest anybody for it. What do you know? You don't have to put anyone in jail. Don't have to send them to rehab.
I will pay this $30.
Yeah, well, Normal Show Live will cover it.
Yeah.
we will
don't
cover
have
it,
a budget.
We have no budget. It'll come out of our own damn pockets.
And if we can do it through more effective drug treatment, wow, and get people back at home, back with their kids, back taking care of their families, maybe back employed, hopefully.
Maybe.
Back paying taxes. What a great success that could be.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
With the exception of the kids, I do all those things, and I'm a drug addict.
Drug addict. See, the critical flaw here, and this is what underpins the entire, treatment over incarceration set, is the notion that all use is abuse. That you cannot be a pot smoker. You can't just be someone who smokes pot. You can be someone who drinks alcohol. I can go out right now to the convenience store down the street. I can buy a whole bunch of alcohol, and I can buy a whole carton of cigarettes, and I can sit here on cam, if you like, and chain smoke cigarettes and drink until I fall over. And nobody's going to force me to go to rehab. Nobody's going to arrest me. It's legal for me to be that. In fact, I got to thinking about this the other day, too. Here in Portland, we've got quite a scene. We got quite a scene, whatever scene you're into, we have it. We have that scene. Whatever it is, it's here.
We like to cater to everyone.
We cater to a diverse range of tastes. You can be a guy who gets large 6-gauge hooks pierced through the skin of your back and suspended from a ceiling for other people to see and enjoy while drinking copious amounts of alcohol. This is perfectly legal. You can be that guy. If that's what gets you off, if you dig being hung from a ceiling by hooks in your back, that's legal. That's perfectly. You can do that to yourself if you like. But don't smoke a joint while you're doing it. All right, Gateway Gill. Are drug problems something that our society will live with forever?
Well, we've lived with it for a long time, but I actually am most optimistic about prescription drugs. Because, one, it isn't something coming across a border that you're trying to stop. It's not produced in the back of the gas station kind of thing. and it really hasn't gotten much focus or attention. And I think that I really am very optimistic that we'll make a difference on the prescription drugs. I think on marijuana, the legalization community is incredibly well funded.
Let's go get in our Beamers, Russ.
I made a graph actually the other day.
Did you?
I made a graph. I went back because normal we actually put our 990s. It's the IRS Form 990. It's all nonprofit organizations have to fill them with the IRS, and they must be publicly available. And we have our IRS 990s on file online at normal. You can actually Google it, look it up, going back to 2002. Now there's two different 990s you need to look up. You can look up the Normal Foundation, and you can look up Normal. Now, Normal gets bigger grants. Normal Foundation, not quite as much. One's an educational arm, one's 501c3, one's 501c4, whatever. But if you combine the two of them, that's Normal. That graph, since 2002, has never topped $800,000.
Never.
Never. Since 2002, we have never had a year with more than $800,000 income. That's your well-funded marijuana legalization lobby. Now, admittedly, other lobbies have some more money. MPP has more money, DPA has more money, but I will guarantee you that the combined revenues of all and donations and grants and honorariums of all people supporting legalization of all drugs, not just marijuana, but all drugs, I guarantee you that the budgets of all of them combined have not topped $20 million in any one year. Maybe 30, but I'll stick with 20. I don't really know how much the rest of them make. But the well-funded marijuana legalization lobby. This is coming from a guy who oversees a budget of $2.6 billion this last year in the budget. I got my map up right here. I'll look at it. Yeah, where they're spending $1.1 billion worth of their budget on marijuana enforcement here. You know, $2.6 billion DEA budget is telling us that we are the well-funded marijuana legalization lobby. All right. Let's get back to Gateway Gill here.
You know, they outspend people in California 1,000 to 1, and yet.
Wait a minute. Oh, would you catch that? They outspent opponents 1,000 to 1.
Really?
Prop 19 campaign compared to the Alexandra Dadig nip it in the bud websites and all that crap that we debunked during the Prop 19 campaign. Prop 19 had that much more money, 1,000 times more money than all of the opposition campaigns. Now, granted, a lot of that money that came into Prop 19 came in the last freaking week.
Yeah.
Last week or two. Thank you. Last week or two when you couldn't do much with it. But is that true? Well, yes, it is. It is true. Prop 19 had more money than the opposition campaigns. But weren't you just telling us earlier, Mr. Kurlikowski, how you, meaning the federal government, the ONDCP, spent a lot of time in California bringing information in and telling everybody about the blah, 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 blah. How much was that worth, Gil Kurlikowski? Huh? So yeah, if you want to compare the funding of Prop 19 campaign compared to the funding of these nonprofit startup, anti-drug people, then yeah, you got an accurate stat there. Actually, I don't know if it's 1,000 to 1 though. I highly doubt that.
Yeah.
But okay, then maybe we got an argument. But to not include the expenditures, the taxpayer-funded expenditures of your office to oppose Prop 19 in that equation is intellectually dishonest at best, sir.
Looked at it and said, you know what? I'm not so sure making this more widely available, more accessible is the best answer for that state.
That's not quite exactly what the people of California came to a decision on Prop 19. Prop 19 had a lot of flaws that were picked apart for various reasons. The employer issue, whether or not the people could, use cannabis at work, whether or not they could use cannabis and drive. A lot of things that got overblown. There's a lot of things you could point to. But consistently, when we look at the Gallup polls throughout the state of California for the legalization of cannabis, we find that support registering in the 60% ranges in most places, okay? So it's not a question of whether or not the people in California want to legalize marijuana. It was whether or not they thought Prop 19 was the right way to do so, okay? That's the lesson to learn from Prop 19. Not that California went, oh, nope, legalization, bad idea. No, they went, Prop 19, not the way we want to do it. All right, we got to take a break. We've got to get the podcast ready for you and the replays here on the Normal Network. Coming up later on today on the network, we've got Green Central Station at 3 p.m. Pacific. That's right out of Des Moines, Iowa, with Reverend Ray Green and the Deacon, and Lord Mota, and I forget the other name. I'll
It's
get
a
them
lot
all.
to juggle.
I know, I'll get them all eventually. And then followed by Cannabis States of America, Tony Z out of Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Great podcast out there. 5 o'clock replay of the first hour of Normal Show live. Then we've got John Doe Radio at 6 o'clock.